So this is the final video in this Lego table build. Everything is pretty much built already. It's all done. I think I want to add some cherry accent on top of the walnut over the top of the face frame just to dress it up a little bit. To get the trim piece I want to add to the top, I used a piece of 1x cherry, ripped it down to 3/4 inches wide, and then I used the round trim router to add a little chamfer to both edges, both top edges. I decided to skip the glue because everything had already been sanded and cleaned up, and I just didn't want to deal with a messy glue situation again. So I decided to clamp it down in place and then screw it instead of using any type of adhesive. After clamping the molding in place, got it where I wanted it, I countersunk 1¼ inch screws into the face frame. And then I capped those holes off with wooden dowels, and this time I used walnut wooden dowels to give it a little contrast. The front edge of the face frame still needed to be attached to the table, so I attached it the same way as I did the trim by countersinking screws down through the face frame into the table and using walnut dowels to cap off the holes. Each dowel got a little dab of wood glue before tapping them in place with my mallet. And just like in the previous process, once the glue dried, I used a flush cut trim saw to trim off the excess dowels and went over it with 120 sandpaper just to smooth it over. After several more rounds of sanding from 120 to 220 grit sandpaper, wiped everything off with a tack cloth, made sure everything was secure, all the screws were in place, all the dowel holes were filled, there was nothing missed. Then I started to apply the Danish oil. This is after 2 coats of Danish oil. I think it turned out pretty nice. I used the natural tint Danish oil. It comes in several different tints, but I think the natural did just fine with this walnut. I didn't need to make it any darker than it was. I just wanted to make it make the grain pop, and the Danish oil did just that. It's a really nice, smooth finish. The walnut grain really shines through. Gives a really nice, smooth finish. I'm very happy with the way the Danish oil turned out. So this is the table all finished. I really wish I had a nicer area in my shop to display projects this size, but the reality is this is a small shop and there's no room for displays. So this is the best I got. So you'll have to ignore the background. But the Lego base plates turned out to be pretty nice. The adhesive, doesn't stick as well as it should. I had to glue down some of the corners to keep the corners from popping up, but that worked out well enough, I think. At the end of the day, the table turned out really just like I had planned it out, so I'm pretty happy about that. I didn't have to make any major changes or anything to it. As nice as it is and as proud of it as I am, I'm really glad to get it out of my shop because it's taking up a lot of space. So she's loaded up and off to the new owners. I hope they'll enjoy it as much as I did building it. Thank you, and I appreciate you watching the video.